All right, Jeff Manaski, Jonathan Meyer, Jim Rondinelli, all sports fans, baseball fans. I brought you guys in today. This is a segment we did for a while. John, you and I did, and I've done it with others. We've called it tossing it around, throwing it around. I reserve the right to change the name of this next week. But
but if we're talking baseball, tossing it around is a great name.
Well, that's not a bad idea. And, of course, yesterday, or this week, I should say, the Baseball Hall of Fame, we know who's going to be elected this summer. It's Bagwell, Tim Raines, and Ivan Rodriguez. What is it? Bags, Rock, and Pudge.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
class of three.
I actually wanted to have you guys in today to talk about who didn't make it, and that's Bonds and Clemens. Of course, the two big. Sosa didn't make it either, right. But the two bigger names. If you had a ballot, if you could vote, would you vote for Bonds, Clemens, Sosa, McGuire, etc.? Palmero.
I probably would at this point. I think the baseball writers have set a precedent that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll get to my point. Yeah.
The baseball writers have set a precedent. I think that if you haven't been accused, or even if you've been accused of using, but there's no hard evidence presented, then they're letting people in at this point. Hence Bagwell, last year Piazza. We're starting to see that kind of weaken, that position weaken. Does that open the door for Bonds and Roger Clemens? To me, it does, and I also look at the fact, were they Hall of Famers before they were perceived to have been users? Barry Bonds is probably the greatest baseball player I've ever seen live, with or without the steroids. Roger Clemens was a tremendous pitcher. The fact that they got mixed up in the steroids is one thing, but I would rather go to the Hall of Fame with my kids one day, having them recognized as the baseball players that they were, and be able to tell my own kids, yeah, they were really great. They were probably worse off than what their numbers were at the end of the day because they cheated.
Would you?
Allegedly. You're right about Clemens and Bonds. They were exceptional players before they got involved with steroids. You look at the early part of their. I mean, Clemens early in his career was just dominant, and Bonds
in Pittsburgh was
that was before. Fair. So I would probably vote for those two. The other two are a different story. I think Sosa and McGuire are definitely helped by the steroids. Yeah. And to me, I wouldn't vote for either one. And this is probably going to anger some McGuire fans. To me, McGuire is a glorified Dave Kingman. All he did was hit home runs. He wasn't a great all-around player. I don't think I'd vote for him either.
Well, I agree on the McGuire standpoint. Sosa, though, you bring up an interesting point. He did other things besides, the alleged steroids. He was caught with corked bats.
Right.
I mean, he shattered a bat one day after I think he grounded out, and the bat, there was nothing but cork that went flying out, and it was very apparent even before high-def television that cork was flying out of the bat. So, there's other circumstances there.
If I had a vote, and I think you bring up a very valid point, there have been rumors about Piazza, Pudge, who's getting voted in, and Bagwell.
Yep.
To be honest with you, I would vote for those guys. I couldn't see myself voting for Bonds, Clemens, Sosa, and McGuire. Let me say this, though. The reason I'm so against it is because baseball, like no other sport, is centered around statistics and achievements and records. And just what Clemens did, and more so Bonds in breaking the home run record, I don't think he would have done it without steroids. So I think that's my position. Why did he hit 72 or 70, however many home runs he hit? Obviously, I believe it was steroid related, because those balls would have been fly balls to the warning track previously. And you talked about his time in Pittsburgh. He wasn't putting up those home run numbers despite the fact that he was such an outstanding player pre-steroids. I just a cheating thing for me. I can't wrap my brain around it. I do think it's a fair point that those guys were really great ball players before. I can't do it.
All right, let's just put it to you this way. Take 300 home runs away from Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
He's still a 500 home run guy.
But like we see with Pete Rose, the league, the sport wanted to send a message to say, if you do this, there's an incredible punishment that you will never recover from. You will be disassociated from.
But with that being said, then why are they still eligible to be voted on?
Well, it's a writer's thing, not a baseball thing.
Well, but baseball's allowing the writers to be able to vote on that. If the writers
the baseball hall and Major League Baseball are two separate entities. I don't think Major League Baseball could say we're removing this player X from the list.
Then why is Pete Rose not on the list?
Okay, I can't argue that.
We're going to pause the video right here. Jeff will come up with his rebuttal.
No, let it go. You know what? I think that's a great point. But they are two separate entities. Of course, Baseball Hall is a private organization. 54% was the number for Clemens, and Bonds was 53.8%.
They were in the 40s last time, so they each got about 10%.
They're gaining momentum. Yeah, and that was the point I was making in the beginning, was the doors are starting to open for these players. There is a logjam of players right now that are currently eligible for the Hall of Fame. There's not a lot of representation from the 80s and the 90s, players that debuted and were in their prime in the 80s and the 90s in the Hall of Fame yet. Tim Raines getting in yesterday or earlier this week was tremendous. The fact that he had to wait so long, maybe there were some other mitigating things outside of his baseball professional life. His personal life I know was in shambles for a bit, and maybe that played a little bit of a factor. But at the end of the day, the one thing I will say is the Mike Mussinas of the world. There's a couple other fringe type
Kurt
of players.
Schilling.
Schilling should be in. I think Schilling's in. Take the political stances aside.
The writers shouldn't even be worrying about the politics side of things. What he does off the field, his on-field thing. I think the reason why he's not in the Hall right now is because he barely has over 200 career.
But see, Schilling shouldn't be in until Jack Morris gets in. Jack Morris was one of the dominating pitchers of his time, big game pitcher. He's got like 240 some odd wins. He's got to get in first.
I won't argue that, but in today's day and age, guys don't get 300 wins.
No, and that, perfectly, exactly. That's why the Mike Mussinas of the world should be in. Kurt Schilling should be in the Hall of Fame. These guys were the dominant pitchers of their era, of their class.
Just quickly, closers should be in the Baseball Hall?
Absolutely. What
about designated hitters?
Yeah, they should too. You know why? Because it's a position. It's not your fault that you're the DH. Someone has to be the DH. Someone has to be slotted at a position.
Right.
Just like, let's go to the football argument here too. Special teams is a third of football. Defense, offense, special teams. Yeah, the greatest special teams player ever is not in the Hall of Fame, Steve Tasker. But that's a position. A DH is a position. A reliever, they should be. Rivera's going to get in, obviously, but Hoffman should be in as well.
That's fair. I'll accept that, yeah.
The relief role is evolved. You look at Goose Gossage.
It's devolved, though. You only get one inning now. Closers, when they started out, it was a 3-inning. You had to close for 9 outs.
Gossage, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Gossage. What I'm saying is it's evolved, whatever. It's a totally different thing with the era, especially in the 90s. Mariano Rivera is going to be, he's got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Trevor Hoffman just missed by a handful of votes.
5 votes.
So I would assume next year will be his year to get in. I'm sure he'll pick up 5 votes between this year and next year. But these guys were the dominant guys. Billy Wagner, he was one of the most dominant closers. You look at all the
I'm more Mo than Wagner all day. I think Mo should be Wagner.
Mariano definitely was the number one guy.
Look at what, boy, I'm having a brain cramp right now, the Mets closer right now. Familia. Look at what he's done the last 2 years. And if he continues to put up these kind of numbers, he's getting saves, 40, 50 saves a year. Over the course of a 10-year career, we're talking a 400, 500 save guy if he can maintain that pace.
Yeah, but a lot more save, like John said, a lot more save opportunities now. Back in the 60s, 70s, there were so many more complete games where you just let the starter go. There was no, this pitch count. The starter would throw 9 innings, and there were way more complete games. Now, the reliever comes in. If it's a 4-run lead or a 3-run lead.
What'll be interesting is 20, 30 years down the road, is there room in the Hall of Fame for that 8th inning dominant,
Well, and that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
As positions evolved, as specialist type of pitchers evolved, is there room for that in the Hall of Fame down the road?
I certainly hope not. But this has gone on longer than I thought. I appreciate it. We want to invite your comments. And, of course, this started with, should guys associated with steroids be allowed into the Hall of Fame? And to be honest with you, I think the real answer is there's probably already guys who've done steroids in the Hall. Yep. So, but Bonds and Clemens, of course, are always the first two. Comment below. Comment on our Facebook page as well. WIBX 950. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.